Hello, today we're going to learn about while loops in Python. Loops are an essential part of programming because they allow us to repeat actions multiple times. Previously, we learned about for loops, which repeat for a fixed number of times. Now we'll learn about while loops, which keep running as long as a condition remains true. Let's see how we can write a while loop in Python. A while loop follows this structure. While a certain condition is true, perform an action. Let's start with a simple example. Imagine we have a variable I, and we set it to 1. We write, while I is less than or equal to 5, print the cube of I. After printing, we increase I by 1. This means the loop will run 5 times, printing the cube of each number from 1 to 5. After I reaches 6, the condition I less than or equal to 5 becomes false, so the loop stops. Unlike for loops, which are used when we know exactly how many times we want to repeat an action, while loops are useful when we don't know in advance when the loop should stop. For example, let's create a loop that counts down. We start with I equals 15. While I is greater than 0, we print I squared, then decrease I by 2. Since I starts at 15, the loop prints the square of 15, then 13, then 11, and so on, until it reaches 1. At this point, I becomes negative, so the condition I greater than 0 is false, and the loop stops. Next, let's talk about an interesting addition to while loops. A while loop can have an else statement. The else statement runs after the loop finishes. Let's try an example. We set I to 1. While I is less than or equal to 3, print I and increase I by 1. Once I reaches 4, the condition I less than or equal to 3 becomes false, and the loop stops. At this point, the else block runs and prints, that's it. Now let's try some more practice. Let's print the square of a number while it is greater than 0. Start with I equals 5. While I is greater than 0, print I squared and decrease I by 1. Since I starts at 5, the loop prints 25, then 16, then 9, then 4, then 1. When I becomes 0, the condition is false and the loop stops. Next, let's rewrite a for loop as a while loop. Previously, we used a for loop to print cubes of numbers from 0 to 10. Now let's do the same thing with a while loop. Start with I equals 0. While I is less than or equal to 10, print I cubed. After each step, increase I by 1. Since I starts at 0, the loop prints the cube of 0, then 1, then 2, and continues up to 10 cubed, which is 1000. Now let's do something useful with a while loop. Let's count how many digits are in a number. We ask the user to enter a number, set digits to 0. While the number is greater than 0, divide it by 10 and increase digits by 1. This works because dividing by 10 removes the last digit. For example, if the user enters 12,345, the loop divides by 10 5 times, reducing the number until it becomes 0. Since we counted 5 steps, the program prints 5, meaning the number has 5 digits. Finally, let's create a while loop with an else statement. We start with I equals 1. While I is less than or equal to 10, print I and increase I by 1. Once I reaches 11, the loop stops, and the else block runs, printing, that's it, as I became 11. This is a great way to add a final message when a loop completes successfully. So, today we learned about while loops in Python. We used while loops to repeat actions as long as a condition was true. We saw that while loops are useful when we don't know in advance how many times we need to repeat something. We also learned about the else block, which runs after a while loop ends. That's it for today's lesson on while loops in Python. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next lesson.